Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday night. Last night I mentioned something about double notes, and while it's fresh in my mind, I thought I would talk something about it tonight. A while back, we talked about those exercises by Henry Hertz. By the way, I have a reason for the camera being set this way tonight. I want you to be able to see the side of my hand. I don't only want you to be able to see the keys, I want you to be able to see my wrist going up and down. I mentioned those Hertz exercises where you, and I suppose they hurt, okay, where you push the keys down, you play a key to get some kind of finger independence. I have my drawbacks about the exercise, as I told you, but one of the absolute best exercises for finger independence are thirds, what we call thirds. There are three intervals that we have to learn to play in doubles. One is the octave. That's an octave. That's a single octave. That's a single octave. That's what they mean by double octaves. And there's a lot of music that recalls for double octaves. It's not a piece per se, but there are passages where you'll be doing scales, whether they be white or black keys. There are passages where they skip, and they're parallel octaves. But they don't demand any fingering per se. 1 and 5, and keep the wrist loose, and we'll be talking about octave exercises and all that kind of thing, and with the black keys. But the next most common interval is the sixth. Much more colorful interval. They sound good. They again, though, there's no real fingering there. It's kind of a 1 and 5 affair. But when you get down to the other interval that's used a lot is the third. Now, the third can involve fingering. But the first thing, before we get involved with fingering, is to get the feel of thirds and getting used to the fingers we use. Now, in general, thirds, in an obvious way, if you can see my hand well enough, the C and the E, the F and the D and the F, the E and the G. That would be with the hand in the quiet position. And to play the 1-3, the 4-2 and the 3-1 and the 4-2, let's say you're doing that. Okay, well, now there's a lot of misunderstanding about doing this kind of thing. As I've said before, when you play a scale, you have to know the grouping of the scale. A scale can be one, could be a free fall on each key. It could be little groups of 2. It could be groups of 3. So, but we don't lift the fingers out of the way to play the next note with the finger. We very rarely, we never use a finger this wide, okay? Mostly it's falling in and coming back up on another finger, one way, that kind of thing. Now, the thirds are the same. The first way to work on these thirds, because most people have trouble with it just in general, is to, and by the way, this is written out, it will be on PianoAt10.com under resources, thirds 1, okay? And I've delineated all of these little exercises. The first thing to do is to just strike the thirds one at a time, like so. The C and the E, the D and the F, and see what I'm doing? I'm getting the fingers kind of firmed up and ready. I'm not doing this. Be careful of that on anything you do. Even if you played 1 and 3 over and over again, like that kind of thing. That's a one way to play third staccato, or 2-4 and 2 and 4, or 3 and 5. You just get them set. The 2 fingers you want to use set. Let the other ones stay down. So, but if we're going to use fingers per se, and we may want to use fingers when we have more of a legato thing, but just to practice 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 3. Get those fingers ready. Let the other fingers stay relaxed. Just like that. Not to be super short, but getting a nice staccato bounce would be good. Same with the left hand. Put the left hand a little lower on the lower C and use 5 and 3, 4 and 2, 3 and 1, 4 and 2. It's funny how some people have a little trouble recalling 2 and 4, sending the signal down there, and then being careful that they don't do this and let the other fingers fly. Just keep those other fingers down. Then if you have the wherewithal, you can try it together. Now when you go parallel, you're going to have what we call parallel fingers. You're going to have the 1 and 3 and the 3 and the 5, and the 2 and the 4, 2 and 4, and the 3 and the 1 and the 3 and the 5 together. And just watch those other fingers. If you can, you set your metronome, maybe a little later you go a little quicker. Okay? Good. Now, that's just little staccato groups. Now, here, the problem comes when you start to create legato groups. As I've said, we don't play legato for a lot of notes at once. We're going to do 2 now. This is where it gets a little dicey. Let me do the right hand alone. You're going to do 3 and 1. You're going to stay on it, and once the hand comes back up, you're going to play 2 and 4 on your way up. It's not going to be this and then playing with the fingers. No, you're going to play. You are going to use the fingers 2 and 4 to go down, but the hand is going to be on its way up. Then you're going to play the 5 and 3. You're going to do a free fall on those, and then the hand comes up. So you put it together. It's a da-dit. That's the sound you're going to get. Da-dit, da-dit, da-dit. Okay? Same with the left hand. Get the idea? Nice and relaxed. That's why I came on the side. You got to see that. It is not. Let me show you what it's not. Very important. No, we don't play like that. We don't play like that. We have longer groups, but we don't play like that. Okay. In the group of 2. Okay. Now, a group of 3. Let's go one longer. It's going to be the same process, except we're going to have da-da-dit. The first da is a little louder because you're in the free fall. The next one you're going to use the fingers, but then you're going to come off the last ones. You're going to be, the whole wrist will be coming up after the initial drop. Again, let those fingers stay close. Left hand also. Free fall. Free fall, free fall, free fall, free fall. Now, we've talked about wrist rotation. There's a bit of it here. If you watch the wrist here, you're going to see me dropping, coming up. You'll also notice a tiny move to the side. Might be imperceptible, I can't tell. That's how we get those notes to come out so evenly, is we're dropping on them. We're not playing fingers. Now, I've always started on the 5 and the 3 and the 1 and the 3. You could start on the 2, 4. It's not on the exercise I wrote, but you could. We'll do 2s. You could even do where you start on the 1 and go right back. It's not like we never accent the 2 and 4 that we start out. Of course we do. We can do that. They could even be out of sync with each other. They could be doing that. It could be doing a lot of things. But the biggest thing is you're dropping on 1, coming up on the next group of 2s. Group of 3s, you're coming up, you're dropping into one and coming up on the next two. The fingers are playing and you're coming off the last one. Now we have our group of fours. Now, the problem with the group of fours is it depends on the tempo you're playing. If you're going really slowly, the group of two, you're going to hear it in there. But if you go for fours, you really almost have to go a little faster. So you've got to get good at the twos and the threes so you can go a little faster. Now, as you know, rhythmically, the third beat of if it's one e and the one and the and are a little louder than the e and the okay. But a lot of people would probably be falling a little bit into the twos, except it wouldn't be as loud as the first beat. So that could be a case. That's a little bit more the sound of the fours. You would have to get used to the sound that each of these guys makes. Okay, now, when does it get dicey? Well, it gets dicey on those notes, even though they're all white keys, because you're trying to coordinate it where your other fingers are not getting all that affected by it. The minute you see those other fingers getting out of the way, you watch out for that. It's a problem. Now, okay, everything's beautiful, everything is fantastic, so I give this to the kids. They start to get pretty good at it. Then all of a sudden I say, okay, you're getting pretty good at it. Next week, let's try all the black keys. And they're like, what? I'm like, let's sharp everything. Let's go up here now for ones. All of a sudden they realize that when they get there, there's a little more stiffness comes in, because when they come up and they're going down, you're not as secure as you are in these white keys. There's a little insecurity of falling off a building here, and the one note here, the F and the E with the third finger on that F, it's like trying to squeeze in. Two on each. Slow. They're not thrusts, they are staccatos. Then, of course, see, the whole thing is you're not using fingers to play louder. That's true of even our Hanon. You're using the arm weight on the first note of the group. As I said, Hanon can be played in twos. Sorry, twos. That's a legitimate way to play Hanon. Most of the time, what they wanted were groups of four, so you're dropping the weight into one of those notes only. But it's the same thing with these guys. You're dropping. You're dropping when you do the twos. Hopefully you can't see it so much in the right hand, but you can see it in the left hand. You can see me dropping in. Okay? Later on. You'll be dropping a little bit more subtly. Okay? And so this is the exercise. And as I said, it's a really, really, really good finger-independent exercise. Right now we're staying in the same place. Thirds can move around. And you can hear groups of threes. Groups of threes. If you have to play triplets going up, and you can see that it depends on the rhythm. Everything always does. So learning to play these guys, then we can, by the way, we can also play, and this will be about the last thing I say about this, we can also play scales in thirds where the fingerings can get fairly crazy when you're doing like chromatic scales. These are very rare, but and that's with threes. So it can be very dependent on, it's always dependent on that rhythm. I'll bring this a little bit more in here and shoot the camera maybe down a little bit more so you can see what I'm talking about with that fingering. Just to give you a little gander. 1 and 3. 2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 3, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 5. 5 is used. 2, 3, 1, 4, 1, 3. Occasionally there's 2 1s in a row, okay? And the left hand, they can get crazy, but they depend on the rhythm. They're still dotted. Sorry, I haven't done that one in a while. That's in threes, more or less. And you can see, but it's a group. You're still playing just groups. You can practice each group on its own. And that's how you build the scale of them, in those little groups. So anyway, I think that's enough about thirds. This will be posted. It's one of the exercises. It's a good one. Practice that first line a lot if you're not good with thirds. Practice it, the one with the short ones, just 1, 3, 2, 4, just that guy. Because you have to let the hand feel what these thirds feel like before you go into the groups of 2s and 3s. Okay, so hopefully that helped. It's a little shorter tonight, but many of my little things here have been a little longer. So anyway, have a good night, and remember, when words fail, music speaks.